Hey there, fact seekers! Before we dive into today's mind-bending topic, let me ask you something that might just blow your mind. If you encountered a mermaid right now, would you call a marine biologist or an anthropologist? Would you classify it as a new species of animal or as a branch of humanity we never knew existed? Well, buckle up because we're about to explore one of the most fascinating questions that sits right at the intersection of mythology, biology, and pure scientific speculation. What's up, FactLab family? Today we're diving deep into the ocean of scientific possibility to answer a question that has puzzled humanity for thousands of years. Are mermaids animals or humans? Now, I know what you're thinking, mermaids aren't real, so why does this matter? But here's the thing, this question opens up an incredible window into how we classify life itself, what makes us human, and how evolution actually works. Plus, scientists have recently discovered some pretty shocking things about human evolution and our relationship with the ocean that might make you question everything you thought you knew. So grab your diving gear, because we're about to plunge into the deepest waters of science, and trust me, what we discover down there is going to change how you think about life on Earth forever. Let's start with the basics. When we talk about mermaids in classical mythology, we're usually describing creatures that are half human from the waist up and half fish from the waist down. But from a scientific perspective, this creates an immediate classification nightmare. You see, in biology, we have something called taxonomy. It's basically the filing system for all life on Earth. Every living thing gets sorted into kingdoms, phyla, classes, orders, families, genera, and species. It's like a massive family tree for everything that's ever lived. Here's where it gets interesting. Humans belong to the kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Primates, family Hominidae, genus Homo, and species Sapiens. Fish, on the other hand, aren't even a single group. What we call fish actually represents multiple different classes of animals. Some are cartilaginous like sharks and rays, others are bony fish like salmon and tuna, and then there are even more primitive groups like lampreys. So if a mermaid existed, where would it fit? The traditional image suggests something that's part mammal, part fish. But evolution doesn't work that way. You can't just mix and match body parts from completely different evolutionary branches. It would be like trying to create a creature that's part bird, part spider. The fundamental biology just doesn't add up. But wait, before you write off the possibility entirely, let me tell you about something that's going to absolutely fascinate you. There's a theory in human evolution called the aquatic ape hypothesis, and it suggests something pretty incredible about our own origins. The aquatic ape hypothesis, first proposed by marine biologist Alistair Hardy in the 1960s, suggests that human ancestors went through a semi-aquatic phase in their evolution. Now, this isn't widely accepted in mainstream science, but the evidence is pretty compelling. Think about it. Humans are the only primates that can control their breathing for extended periods. We're the only primates with a layer of subcutaneous fat similar to marine mammals. We're almost completely hairless, just like dolphins and whales. Our babies can swim before they can walk. We're naturally drawn to water in ways that our closest relatives, chimpanzees and gorillas, simply aren't. Even more fascinating, humans can develop what's called the mammalian diving reflex. When we're submerged in cold water, our heart rate slows down, blood flow redirects to vital organs, and our spleen contracts to release extra red blood cells. This is the exact same response we see in seals, whales, and other marine mammals. Some proponents of the aquatic ape hypothesis go even further. They suggest that early human ancestors lived in coastal environments, wading through shallow waters, diving for shellfish, and gradually adapting to a semi-aquatic lifestyle. This could explain our upright posture. It's much more efficient for wading through water than the knuckle walking of our ape cousins. Now, if humans did have an aquatic phase in our evolution, could we have evolved further in that direction? Could there be a branch of human ancestors that never left the water? This is where things get really interesting from a speculative evolution standpoint. Let's imagine for a moment that a group of early human ancestors became fully aquatic. What would happen to them over millions of years? Their bodies would need to become more streamlined for efficient swimming. Their arms might develop into more fin-like appendages. Their legs could potentially fuse together into a powerful tail for propulsion. Their ribcage might expand to hold larger lungs for extended diving. Their eyes could develop a nictitating membrane for underwater vision. But here's the crucial point: they would still be mammals. They would still need to breathe air, give birth to live young, and nurse their babies with milk. They would be more like whales or dolphins than fish. In fact, whales provide us with a perfect example of how mammals can become fully aquatic while retaining their mammalian characteristics. Whales evolved from land mammals around 50 million years ago. Their ancestors looked something like small, furry wolves. Over millions of years, they gradually adapted to life in the water. Their front legs became flippers, their hind legs disappeared entirely, they developed powerful tails, and their nostrils moved to the top of their heads to become blowholes. But they remained mammals throughout this entire transformation. So if mermaids existed and evolved from human ancestors, they would most likely be aquatic mammals, not half-fish, half-human hybrids. They'd be more accurately described as aquatic humans or human dolphins than traditional mermaids. But let's take this thought experiment even further. What would their society look like? How would they develop technology underwater? This is where marine biology gives us some incredible insights. Dolphins, for instance, have incredibly complex social structures. They use tools, they have names for each other, they pass knowledge down through generations, and they even have regional dialects in their communication. Some scientists argue that dolphins are essentially alien intelligence. They're smart enough to be considered sentient, but their environment is so different from ours that we can barely comprehend how they think. Octopuses are even more fascinating. They can solve complex puzzles, use tools, and display what appears to be individual personality traits. Some octopuses have been observed collecting shells and rocks to build shelters, using coconut shells as portable armor, and even throwing objects at researchers who annoy them. They're incredibly intelligent, but their intelligence is so different from mammalian intelligence that we're still trying to figure out how to study it properly. An aquatic human species would likely develop along similar lines. They might create cities out of coral reefs, develop agriculture by farming seaweed and shellfish, and create art using bioluminescent organisms. Their technology would be based on biology rather than metallurgy. You can't forge metal underwater, but you can breed organisms to serve specific purposes. Their communication would probably be primarily sonic, like whales and dolphins. They might develop a complex language based on clicks, whistles, and subsonic frequencies. They could potentially communicate across vast ocean distances, creating a global network of consciousness that spans the entire planet. Now, here's where things get really wild. Recent discoveries in marine biology have revealed that the ocean is far more complex and interconnected than we ever imagined. There are entire ecosystems around deep-sea thermal vents that operate on completely different principles from surface life. There are organisms that can live for thousands of years, creatures that are essentially immortal, and life forms that can survive in conditions that would instantly kill any surface-dwelling organism. What if aquatic humans had access to all of this? What if they could live for centuries, diving to depths that would crush surface humans, and accessing resources we can't even imagine? They would essentially be living in a completely different world, one that covers more than 70% of our planet but remains almost entirely unexplored by surface humanity. This brings us to one of the most fascinating questions in the entire mermaid debate. If they existed, would we even recognize them as human? Think about it. If human ancestors had been evolving in the ocean for millions of years, they would be so different from us that we might not even realize we're related. They might be as different from us as we are from our earliest primate ancestors, and here's something that's going to absolutely blow your mind. We've only explored about 5% of our oceans. That means 95% of the largest habitat on our planet remains completely unknown to us. The deep ocean is literally more alien to us than the surface of Mars. We've mapped Mars in greater detail than we've mapped our own ocean floor. In that vast unexplored realm, there could be entire ecosystems, entire civilizations, entire branches of evolution that we've never encountered. The ocean is so enormous and so deep that complex organisms could live their entire lives down there without us ever knowing they exist. Recent sonar surveys have detected massive structures on the ocean floor that don't match any known geological formations. There are underwater sounds, like the bloop, a mysterious low-frequency sound detected in the Pacific Ocean, that scientists still can't fully explain. There are deep-sea creatures that look so alien they might as well be from another planet. What if some of those unknown sounds are actually communication? What if some of those strange structures are actually artificial? What if there really is an intelligent species living in the deep ocean that we simply haven't discovered yet? Now, I'm not saying mermaids definitely exist. But I am saying that the possibility isn't as far-fetched as you might think. And if they do exist, the scientific classification would depend entirely on their evolutionary origin. If they evolved from human ancestors, they would technically be human, just a branch of humanity that took a very different evolutionary path. They would be Homo aquaticus instead of Homo sapiens. But if they evolved independently from fish or other marine animals, they would be classified as animals, not humans. The key question would be, do they share a common ancestor with us, or did they evolve intelligence and human-like characteristics through convergent evolution? This is actually a really important distinction in biology. Convergent evolution is when completely unrelated species develop similar characteristics because they face similar environmental challenges. For example, sharks and dolphins both have similar body shapes, but sharks are fish and dolphins are mammals. They look similar because that body shape is efficient for swimming, not because they're closely related. So here's what we know for certain: if mermaids existed, they would most likely be classified based on their evolutionary history, not their appearance. If they descended from human ancestors, they'd be human. If they evolved from fish, they'd be fish. If they evolved from some other lineage entirely, they'd belong to that group. But here's the really mind-blowing part: the distinction between human and animals might not even matter to them. Think about it from their perspective. They would have spent millions of years developing their own culture, their own understanding of the world, their own relationship with their environment. To them, we surface dwellers might be the weird ones. They might look at us the same way we look at our early ancestors who first crawled out of the ocean hundreds of millions of years ago. They might see us as the branch of the family that took a wrong turn, abandoning the vast, three-dimensional world of the ocean for the flat, limited world of land. And you know what? They might have a point. The ocean is Earth's largest habitat. It's where life began. It's where most of the planet's biodiversity still exists. From their perspective, land might seem like a hostile, limited environment where creatures can only move in 2 dimensions and are constantly fighting against gravity. This brings us to perhaps the most important question of all: what can the idea of mermaids teach us about ourselves? Even if they don't exist, thinking about them scientifically reveals incredible things about evolution, classification, and what it means to be human. It shows us that humanity isn't a fixed category, we're part of an ongoing evolutionary process. It reminds us that most of our planet remains unexplored and that we might not be alone in our intelligence. It challenges us to think about intelligence and consciousness in new ways. Most importantly, it reminds us that the boundaries we create between different types of life are often artificial. The distinction between human and animal, between intelligent and non-intelligent, between us and them, these categories help us understand the world, but they're not absolute truths. They're tools for thinking, not fundamental laws of nature. So the next time someone asks you whether mermaids would be animals or humans, you can tell them the truth: it depends entirely on where they came from and how we define those categories in the first place. But more importantly, the question itself reveals the beautiful complexity of life on Earth and the incredible diversity of ways that intelligence and consciousness might evolve. What do you think? Could there be intelligent life in our oceans that we haven't discovered yet? Are there branches of evolution happening in the deep sea that we can't even imagine? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing your theories and ideas, and if this video blew your mind like it blew mine while researching it, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to FactLab for more incredible science content. We dive deep into the most fascinating questions about our world, our universe, and our place in it all. Next week, we're exploring another mind-bending topic: what if humans could photosynthesize like plants? How would that change our biology, our society, and our entire relationship with the planet? Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the most incredible discoveries are often hiding in the places we least expect to find them. The ocean covers most of our planet, but it might as well be an alien world. Who knows what's down there waiting to be discovered? This is FactLab, diving deep into the science that shapes our world. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey to the bottom of the ocean and the depths of scientific possibility. See you in the next one.